Try to hold water in your hands. The tighter you squeeze, the faster it escapes. This is the same mistake most people make with manifestation, mistaking force for control and control for creation. But the quantum field doesn't organize around force, it organizes around coherence. In the quantum field, control isn't stability, it's resistance. Imagine a person stuck in traffic, gripping the wheel, forcing their shoulders to stay tense, as if their effort could part the line of cars ahead. The cars don't move faster. The body just burns energy while time keeps flowing. This is the trap of control in manifestation, an attempt to order reality with tension instead of allowing coherence to collapse probability into form. Control feels safe. It feels rational. Yet the quantum field doesn't respond to the surface layer of conscious commands. It responds to the deep broadcast of your nervous system. When you grip, your body says uncertainty, fear, lack of trust. That signal collapses timelines of struggle, not by punishment, but by precision. The field is precise, it mirrors the broadcast, and so the harder you try to hold it all together, the louder you transmit fragmentation. We've all rehearsed this. The student forcing himself to repeat, "I'll succeed," while his gut contracts with dread before an exam. The woman staring at her phone, refreshing notifications, telling herself she's aligned, while her body sends out the vibration of waiting. The man practicing gratitude in a journal, while his chest burns with resentment that he won't admit. In all these cases, the words don't matter. The field doesn't collapse from the mask, it collapses from the frequency beneath. Neuroscience affirms this. Your subconscious programs govern over 95% of your daily output, and those programs are not run by words, but by states. If your nervous system is dysregulated, locked in fight, flight, or freeze, the field reads that state as your identity. And identity is the magnet. So when control keeps your system contracted, your identity remains the one who doesn't have. The paradox is brutal. The more you try to force alignment, the more you confirm the state of misalignment, not by chasing, by becoming. And becoming requires release. The problem is, release feels unsafe. Your body was trained to believe control equals survival. The nervous system clings to control the way a climber clings to a ledge, terrified of falling, not realizing that the ledge itself prevents the ascent. This is where coherence enters. Heart-brain coherence is not about forcing your mind to think positive thoughts. It's about shifting your physiology into a regulated, open, synchronized state where your brain waves and heart rhythms align. In that state, control dissolves not because you stop caring, but because you no longer need to force safety. Safety is embodied, and the field collapses around that embodiment. It's why the moment you finally stop obsessing about a message, it arrives. The moment you stop replaying the failure, opportunities appear. The moment you stop trying to control your next step, the next step reveals itself. If this is clicking for you, drop one word in the comments. The frequency you choose to embody this week. Maybe it's trust, maybe it's openness, maybe it's release. Each word is not just language, it's a signal your body can practice transmitting. But here's the deeper truth. Release is not passive, it's active coherence. It's choosing to regulate your system into safety so your signal becomes trust. Control blocks because it's incoherence. Release creates because it's precision. And the field never misses precision, because when you embody the reality you desire, collapse happens not in the future, but instantly, here. Think about the last time you replayed an argument in your head, trying to edit each line until it sounded perfect. In that loop, your body wasn't relaxed. Your chest was tight, your jaw clenched, your breath shallow. Even though nothing was happening outside, your nervous system was transmitting the vibration of conflict. That's the invisible paradox. Control doesn't move reality forward, it replays the past. The quantum field doesn't listen to your rehearsed sentences, it listens to the state of your cells. Physics calls it coherence, biology calls it regulation, psychology calls it integration. They all point to the same thing. Alignment emerges not from force, but from harmony. Control is like trying to tune an instrument by squeezing the strings harder. The sound doesn't sharpen, it just distorts. But when you allow the tension to soften, when you adjust with presence, The instrument vibrates in pure resonance. That's what your body is. The instrument through which reality collapses. If you tighten, you distort the note. If you release, you let the song of your future actually be heard. This is why embodiment is the true technology of manifestation. You don't convince the field with affirmations. You collapse the field with physiology. If your heart rate variability shows rhythm, if your breath is smooth, if your mind's waves settle into coherence, then your body becomes a clear transmitter. Control blocks because it fractures the signal into static. Release creates because it lets the song come through without interference. This is not mystical, it's measurable. The HeartMath Institute has shown that states of gratitude, compassion, and trust regulate the heart and brain into synchrony. In that synchrony, your electromagnetic field, the very signal your body broadcasts, becomes stronger and more ordered, and reality collapses in response. Not by force, by frequency. Think about how many hours you've spent forcing productivity, forcing confidence, forcing relationships to work. All those hours, your body was locked in a subtle fight, and the field mirrored fight with fight. But the moments when you surrendered, when you laughed at your own tension, when you let go of needing to prove anything, when you dropped the weight of outcome, those were the moments things aligned effortlessly. Reality collapsed because your state was coherent. Control blocks the field because it says, I don't trust. Release opens the field because it says, I already am. And when you embody I already am, the quantum field doesn't argue. It simply reflects. Let's slow this down, because here's where most people get tangled. They think release means doing nothing, like sitting back on the couch, waiting for the universe to drop a miracle through the ceiling. But release is not withdrawal. Release is the deepest form of engagement. It's when your body, your emotions, and your mind line up to send one single signal instead of scattering 10 different ones. The science is clear. Your nervous system is constantly shaping your perception of reality. When you're stuck in fight or flight, the brain's amygdala dominates, flooding your system with stress hormones. Your field, that electromagnetic broadcast radiating out several feet beyond your body, becomes chaotic. Chaotic fields collapse into chaotic outcomes. So control, the gripping and forcing, is really just keeping you in survival physiology. And survival cannot generate creation. Creation happens in regulation. Imagine this in everyday life. A man sits at his computer, refreshing his inbox for the 5th time in 10 minutes, hoping for the job offer. His chest tightens with every empty refresh. He tells himself he's manifesting opportunity, but his body is broadcasting desperation. That vibration doesn't open doors, it reinforces waiting. Or picture a teenager scrolling through social media, comparing her body to everyone she sees. She forces herself to repeat, I am beautiful. But her stomach is in knots, her shoulders curve inward, her body screams self-rejection. The field collapses in precision, not what she says, but what she is embodying. Or think of someone trying to sleep before a big presentation, lying rigid in bed, controlling their breath, trying to force calm. The more they try, the more restless they become. This is the control trap. The very act of gripping is the signal of misalignment. Now compare that to someone who decides to pause. Instead of refreshing, the man closes his eyes, breathes slow, feels the chair holding him. His nervous system settles. The inbox is still empty, but his body now broadcasts trust. The teenager stops scrolling, takes a walk outside, feels the rhythm of her steps sync with her breath. Her system shifts from contraction to openness. The presenter stops counting breaths, places a hand on their chest, and simply allows the sensation of the heartbeat to anchor them. No force, just coherence. And in that coherence, the signal shifts. Quantum physics calls this collapse of probability into actuality. Neuroscience calls it neuroplasticity, your brain rewiring itself around the state you embody most often. Psychology calls it state-dependent identity. You act and receive according to who you are being in the moment. These aren't separate explanations. They're the same truth told in 3 different dialects. And all of them agree, control fractures, Release unifies. This is why I say release is not passive. It's active regulation. It's a practice of training your system to dwell in coherence so that your signal matches the timeline you want to live. Release is the art of no longer fighting yourself, and when you stop fighting yourself, the field stops reflecting resistance. The external world collapses into harmony because your internal world is transmitting harmony. Think of an astronaut floating in space. If they panic and flail, they spin out of control. If they trust, breathe, and align their small movements, they glide with precision. Reality is the same. Force creates turbulence. Coherence creates direction. And here's the liberating truth. You don't need to make release happen. Your body already knows how. Every time you exhale fully, your parasympathetic system signals safety. Every time you feel gratitude sincerely, your heart rhythm synchronizes with your brain waves. Every time you stop gripping outcomes, your system broadcasts alignment. This is not magic, this is measurable, and the field never resists what is coherent. So the question isn't, how do I control the field? The question is, can I train my system to release into coherence often enough that it becomes my baseline identity? Because when release becomes identity, creation is not something you chase, it's something you are. And that's why control blocks, because control says, I don't trust who I am unless reality proves it. But release says, I embody it now, and reality will mirror. And the field always mirrors with precision. Always. Here's the irony. People think control guarantees certainty, but in physics, control actually amplifies uncertainty. Heisenberg's uncertainty principle shows that the more you try to pin down one aspect of a system, like the exact position of a particle, the less certain you can be about another aspect, like its momentum. Translate that into life. The more you cling to controlling timing, the less access you have to flow. The more you grip outcomes, the less freedom you have in the process. Control narrows your aperture. Release expands it. And the quantum field can only deliver through openness. Think of a gardener. If she hovers over the soil, poking the seed every hour to see if it's sprouting, she disturbs the process. The seed doesn't grow faster. In fact, it risks being damaged. But if she waters, nurtures, and then steps back, the growth unfolds naturally. Control is the constant poking. Release is the trust that the soil knows what to do. Or picture a musician in rehearsal, trying to play a piece perfectly. Every note is tense, robotic, cautious. The music doesn't breathe. But when the musician lets go of the need for flawless control and drops into flow, suddenly the piece comes alive. The quantum field works the same way. It responds not to control, but to coherence in motion. The song plays best when the body trusts its own rhythm. Here's what neuroscience adds. When you're in control mode, your prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for creativity, problem-solving, and visionary thinking, actually goes offline. Your brain reroutes resources to survival circuitry. That means when you try to force your way into creation, you literally disable the very neural networks required for innovation and alignment. Release, on the other hand, restores balance to the nervous system. It activates alpha and theta brainwaves, linked to imagination and deep coherence. In that state, new patterns form, synchronicity accelerates, the brain becomes a mirror for the quantum field. And yet, so many of us are addicted to control. Why? Because at some level, control feels like protection. If I monitor, if I analyze, if I grip, then at least I won't be caught off guard. But this is trauma masquerading as strategy. The body learned that letting go wasn't safe, so it keeps control alive as a survival reflex, which means manifestation isn't just about techniques, it's about healing the nervous system so it no longer equates release with danger. When the body trusts release, creation becomes effortless. I think of the woman who tried to control every calorie, every step, every mirror check in her attempt to change her body. For years, she stayed stuck in cycles of tension. The breakthrough didn't come when she forced harder. It came when she stopped fighting, when she let her body rest, when she discovered joy in movement rather than punishment. Her physiology shifted, her vibration shifted, and the field collapsed into a new reflection of her identity. Not by control, by coherence, not by force, by frequency. So the practice is simple but radical. Instead of asking, how do I force this outcome into existence? Ask, how do I release enough to embody the frequency of the outcome now? Because when you embody it, you stop waiting, and the field cannot resist coherence. It mirrors instantly. If this is resonating, pause right now and write one sentence in the comments. I release control into coherence. Let your nervous system see those words. Let your fingers type them. That act itself is practice, not mental control but embodied release. And as you do, notice something. The more you practice release, the lighter you feel, and that lightness is not weakness. It is the exact vibration through which the quantum field reorganizes itself around you. Identity is the hidden code running beneath every attempt at manifestation. You can repeat affirmations all day. You can visualize until your forehead aches. But if your nervous system is still carrying the identity of the one who doesn't have, then every signal you broadcast confirms lack. Control keeps that old identity alive. Release rewires it. Here's why. The brain is plastic. Neuroplasticity means your neural networks, the highways of thought, emotion, and perception, are constantly reorganizing themselves based on repeated states. If you live in chronic control, your brain wires pathways of vigilance, scarcity, and survival. Those circuits fire so often that they become your default identity, the struggler, the one who has to push, the one who can't trust. That identity then filters every possibility in the field. You don't even see the synchronicities waiting for you because your brain edits them out in order to stay consistent with who you believe you are. But release interrupts that loop. When you release even for a moment, your nervous system shifts out of survival and into safety. In that state, your prefrontal cortex wakes up, your body floods with endorphins, your brain waves soften. Suddenly, your system is ready to encode new possibilities. Repetition of this state rewires your identity at the subconscious level. You stop being the one who controls, and you become the one who trusts. And the field mirrors that new identity with precision. Picture someone rehearsing a breakup in their head over and over, trying to control every what-if. They grip the memory like a scientist dissecting a specimen, hoping the analysis will protect them from pain. But all that control does is reinforce the identity of the abandoned one. Release, allowing the emotions to flow, letting the body shake, breathe, soften, creates space for a new identity, the one who feels and heals. That shift isn't just psychological, it's quantum. The field collapses around the new embodiment, drawing experiences that reflect healing instead of abandonment. Or think of a young athlete terrified of failing at the big game. He controls his every move in practice, rigid and overthinking, his muscles stiff with anxiety. That control wires the identity of the choker under pressure, but when he learns to release, to breathe into his body, to trust the muscle memory he's already built, suddenly he enters flow. His brain maps a new identity, the one who rises when it matters. And the field reflects back that flow, not the choke. Identity is not fixed, it's fluid, sculpted moment by the state you embody most often. The field doesn't give you what you want, it gives you who you are. Control says, I am the one who doesn't have, trying to force it into being. Release says, I am the one who already embodies, and reality will collapse to confirm it. This is where embodiment becomes the master key. When your body feels safe, when your breath is open, when your system is coherent, your identity shifts automatically. You don't have to control the shift. You just have to allow the state. And the state wires the identity. And the identity collapses the field. It's a loop, but one you can consciously train. Every time you notice yourself gripping, forcing, micromanaging, you have a choice. To continue reinforcing the old identity or to release into the new. Each release is a neuroplastic event. Each release is quantum collapse. Not by chasing, by becoming. Not by control, by coherence. And here's the invitation. This week, choose one small moment where you normally control. Maybe it's checking your phone too often, or over-analyzing a message before sending it, or tensing in traffic. Instead of gripping, pause. Release. Breathe. Embody the identity of the one who trusts. That single choice is not small. It's a collapse point, a signal. And the field always answers signals with precision. Surrender has been so misunderstood. People think surrender means giving up, lying down, letting life just happen to them. But in the quantum field, surrender isn't passive, it's catalytic. It's the moment your system becomes so coherent, so vibrationally aligned, that the timelines which used to stretch out into someday suddenly fold into now. That's timeline collapse. And it doesn't happen through control. It happens through release. Think about your daily life. You wake up already planning, controlling, rehearsing. Before your feet hit the ground, your nervous system is broadcasting urgency. You think this prepares you for the day, but what it really does is glue you to the timeline of struggle. Now picture a different morning. You wake up, pause, breathe, and release the need to map every move. You place one hand on your heart, let your system synchronize, and only then take your first step. That release doesn't slow you down, it accelerates you, because the body broadcasts coherence, and coherence collapses timelines. I've seen this in countless micro-scenarios. A writer staring at the screen, gripping, trying to force words. Hours pass, nothing flows. Then she finally surrenders, goes for a walk, lets her mind soften. In that release, the entire chapter downloads in 20 minutes. A couple in conflict, rehearsing their arguments, controlling every line. They stay stuck for weeks. Then one evening, one of them releases the grip, opens the chest, speaks vulnerably instead of controlling. In a single conversation, months of tension collapse. Or a student trying to memorize facts for an exam, pushing, controlling every detail, until he stops, releases, lets the material integrate through spaced rest. Suddenly, recall becomes effortless. This is surrender in action, not resignation, precision. Because the moment you release, your nervous system stops broadcasting fragmentation, and when your signal is coherent, the field organizes around it. What once looked like a long, linear path collapses into a single step revealed. Physics can explain this too. When systems reach coherence, they self-organize more efficiently. Lasers, for example, are just photons in coherence. Individually, they are scattered, weak. Together, they collapse into a beam powerful enough to cut steel. Your life is no different. Scattered energy keeps timelines stretched. Coherent energy collapses them. Control scatters. Release unifies. And here's the paradox. Control feels like acceleration, but it slows everything down. Release feels like slowing, but it accelerates everything forward. That's why surrender is not giving up. It's the fastest way to move. So the real question becomes, where in your life are you extending timelines through control? Is it the job you're forcing? The relationship you're micromanaging? The money you're gripping in fear? Wherever you are holding tight, you're creating delay. And wherever you release, you accelerate. If this is landing for you, share one area in the comments where you're choosing release this week. It could be as simple as letting go of refreshing your notifications, or as profound as dropping the need to control a loved one. The act of declaring it starts the timeline collapse. Because in the end, surrender isn't about waiting. It's about collapsing, not by controlling more, by becoming coherent enough that reality has no choice but to mirror you instantly. Heart-brain coherence is the hidden engine of release. It's the physiology of surrender, the measurable science behind what spiritual traditions have always pointed to. When your heart rhythm synchronizes with your brain waves, your entire system begins broadcasting one unified signal instead of fragmented noise. That signal isn't metaphorical, it's electromagnetic, radiating several feet beyond your body, interacting with the field around you. And the field doesn't respond to your wishes. It responds to that signal. When you're in control mode, your brain and heart are out of sync. The mind spins with thoughts of what if, while the heart pumps erratically under stress. The result is incoherence, static. And static doesn't collapse probability into form. It just recycles what's already familiar. The same struggles, the same delays, the same feedback loops. But when you shift into coherence, something radical happens. Studies from the HeartMath Institute show that when people sustain states like gratitude, compassion, and trust, the heart's rhythm becomes ordered, and the brain follows suit. Suddenly the system is broadcasting a strong, coherent signal. That's the signal the quantum field mirrors. That's the signal through which timelines collapse. Let me ground this in scenarios you know. A parent trying to control their teenager's choices, lecturing, monitoring, tightening rules. The more they control, the more resistance grows. Both systems broadcast incoherence. But imagine that parent pausing, breathing, and aligning into coherence before speaking. Their words shift tone, their energy softens, and suddenly the teenager feels safe enough to listen. That's coherence, not force, not control. A signal shift that reorganizes reality. Or picture a woman obsessed with money, controlling every penny, calculating every risk, tightening like a fist. She transmits lack no matter how many affirmations she repeats. But when she begins to practice release, slowing her breath, dropping into her heart, feeling genuine gratitude for what already exists, her system reorganizes. Within weeks, opportunities appear. Not because she earned them by force, but because her signal shifted from scarcity to sufficiency. This is why I call coherence the true currency of manifestation. It's not your effort that the field responds to. It's your vibration in the present moment. Effort without coherence is noise. Release into coherence is precision. And here's where the paradox resolves. Surrender is not abandoning intention. You still hold your vision. You still know where you're going. But instead of gripping it from scarcity, you embody it from coherence. That's the difference between controlling the seed and becoming the soil. The seed grows not because you poke it, but because the soil is coherent enough to nurture its unfolding. Identity plays into this too. Each time you enter coherence, you're not just regulating your system, you're rehearsing a new identity. I am the one who trusts. I am the one who embodies. I am the one who doesn't need to force because I already am. Over time, this identity takes root in your subconscious, and once identity shifts, the field doesn't delay. It reflects immediately. So think of coherence as the bridge. Control fractures, surrender dissolves, but coherence bridges. It takes the energy you already carry, organizes it, and sends it into the field with laser-like precision. And the field always mirrors precision. If you're feeling this, pause with me now. Place one hand on your heart, one hand on your belly. Inhale slowly for a count of 5. Exhale for a count of 5. Do this 3 times. That simple act just shifted your signal. That simple act just trained your system in release. And if you did it, you've already practiced quantum collapse. So here we are, circling back to the truth that control is not creation. Control is contraction. Control is survival playing dress-up as strategy. And survival cannot open the quantum field because survival is a signal of not enough. The universe listens to signals, not surface thoughts. That means every time you grip, every time you force, every time you try to bend reality with tension, you're only amplifying the vibration of delay. Release is the opposite. Release is not escape. Release is not laziness. Release is embodiment. It's your nervous system stepping out of survival and into safety. It's your brain syncing with your heart, your body broadcasting one coherent frequency. That frequency is the real language the field understands. That's why things align when you stop waiting, stop gripping, stop controlling. The signal changes and the field mirrors instantly. Think of how many times this has already happened in your life. The job interview you crushed not when you overprepared, but when you walked in relaxed, breathing, smiling open. The friendship that deepened not when you tried to control every word, but when you released and spoke with honesty. The opportunity that arrived not when you obsessed about timing, but when you forgot to care for a moment. And in that opening, life delivered. Release is not weakness. Release is alignment. And alignment is precision. When we look at it scientifically, it's simple. The nervous system regulates the signal collapses probability, and identity determines which probabilities you collapse. Control fractures all 3. Release unifies them. And when you unify, the field cannot do anything except mirror, not later, not eventually, but here now through the coherence of who you are. So let's leave it with this. You don't need to fight harder. You don't need to grip tighter. You don't need to control more. The field does not reward force. The field responds to frequency. Not by chasing, by becoming, not by control, by coherence, not by effort, by release. And here's my invitation. As you close this video, don't just think about release. Practice it. One deep breath, one hand on your heart, one moment of surrender in your body. Feel how quickly your state shifts. That shift is not small. That shift is the collapse point. If you're ready to keep exploring how science and spirit meet in the art of coherence, hit subscribe and join this community of alignment. Because we're not here to control reality. We're here to embody it and let the field mirror the truth we become.